Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
What you can hear, ladies and gentlemen, is somebody's blood pressure going up.
Fly ball to deep right, blanks to the track. It is gone. Viva Pui.
Clowney just says, I'll take care of business right here.
This has just left me physically sick.
And I would just love it is if he starts running out onto the field, all of a sudden the guy from MLB goes, whoa, whoa.
Jordan driving. He'll go for it. Yeah, he got it. He got it. He got it.
I would rather my quarterback completed 1 in 100 passes if we win the game.
You never see a team play harder than we will the rest of this season.
What a hit! In the air to left field. Going back on it. It is gone!
He's just an arse.
He likes blocking people, unlike the Green Bay Packers offensive line.
Can't teach that, can you? And you can't defend that.
How stupid is Johnny Manziel?
This is ridiculously stupid.
I'm LeBron James from Akron, Ohio. I'm blessed.
You're listening to First Take UK with Stephen Edwards, but first, Ollie Connolly.
Hi, hello everyone, welcome to First Take UK. Hope all is going well wherever you are. Welcome to this kick-off NFL edition. The NFL has kicked off today, Stephen Edwards. We just did a preview show after the kick-off. How are you, my friend?
Oh, really well. We've just closed down our NFL preview.
5.5 hours.
5.5 hours of NFL preview. Which other podcast out there gave our listeners, or listeners as a whole, 5.5 hours
this
of
week
quality analysis on the NFL?
I like that analysis, not just quality podcasting. We gave analysis, which I like a lot. How have you been, sir? We haven't spoken in a while. I mean, we spoke just then. Obviously, we did a show, but in terms of doing this show, and we've chatted through texts and DMs. We haven't spoke for a couple of days. How have you been? What have you been up to? We had a birthday in the family. I think the household had a birthday. Yeah, it
was my youngest, who was 4 yesterday. So. Do you know what it means when you have a child that has a birthday? The best part of it is
what's that?
You can eat
the cake.
Oh, nice. You can eat cake, and it doesn't have to be, just it could be whatever cake it is. I mean, this time I had a SpongeBob SquarePants cake. What other day of the week can you eat SpongeBob SquarePants cake than when you have a child that has a birthday? But so that was.
I'm at the age where I wouldn't be able to buy a SpongeBob SquarePants cake, and here's the point: because either I go up with it to say Asda or any other supermarket that is available wherever you are. We're not putting one supermarket before another. Stephen wouldn't do that. We want all their business to sponsor the show. If I go up to the counter with a SpongeBob SquarePants cake, either I like a simple kid who is old and still is a kid. I've got one screw missing, and so I'm buying a SpongeBob SquarePants cake, or I look like a really young father who some could say is irresponsible, and I'm there buying for my child, even though I'm young myself, and there's no child around me. So I don't think it works for me either way to buy a SpongeBob SquarePants cake. So you're in a pretty sweet situation there.
I am in a pretty sweet situation. I think what Ollie's kind of haggling for there is that the next time there's a birthday in the Edwards household, that he wants to be invited along so that he can have.
Was a little disappointed. I just assumed it had been lost in the post, or the DM wasn't sent. I just assumed that. I didn't want to bring it up on air.
But that was my day yesterday, so that's why me and Ollie said we sit down. We devote a bit more time to our families on Friday and Saturday, so that we could then on Sunday full steam ahead for the NFL. We knew we had a couple of shows to put out there, so we could then literally concentrate on doing that. But no, it's been a relaxing weekend, and of course, as I say, the NFL started, so I'm a happy man. And how about yourself, Mr. Connolly? What have you been up to up in rural Cheshire?
I've been doing bits and pieces, bits and bobs. My Friday night was really interesting. I had to sit down and watch, I think it was 2 abysmal rom-coms. Here's why. Okay, let me lay it out there for everyone. That's a pen I've just dropped. My girlfriend knows about American sports because it's what I do all day, and it's what I cover, and she knew that there was something upon us, but she thought it all kicked off at once, like it was all one sport. She doesn't know the division between the college football and the NFL, as you wouldn't expect any female not into the sport to know. So she assumed that it kicked off last weekend, and that it was on a Saturday for once, because she's used to it being on a Sunday, obviously with the NFL. So she thought it all kicked off. So then I'm sat there. I'm like, I don't want to watch these films, but I've got to break it to her that I'm busy both Saturday and Sunday. You know, watching on Saturday the college football to project these guys to what I'm going to see on Sunday the next day. And it's a difficult thing to try and do, and you're thinking, when do I squeeze in? Do I get it out the way early? Can I even get away with doing it by a text, even if we're sat next to each other? Can I just send a text? I'm busy on Saturday and Sunday. So I thought I'm gonna let her have the whole evening to herself. I'm gonna say yes to everything. You can make your own, thoughts about what went on throughout the whole Saturday. I thought I'll say yes to everything, and I'll just slowly break in during the second Hugh Grant film. That I will be busy both Saturday and Sunday. She didn't take it the best, because she did believe that I was only busy Sunday with football, because she thought it only happens on Sundays. She could not believe that they played on both Saturdays and Sundays, and that young men played on Saturdays, and I was as interested in that one as I was in the actual men who get paid on the Sunday. That baffled her. So I was spending Friday night trying to explain this to my lovely girlfriend. So that's how I spent my Friday. Then I spent Saturday dodging things getting chucked at me whilst I was trying to sit and watch college football. Whilst ESPN Player, which is our way of watching college football over here, for people who don't just want to watch the biggest game that day, one game, who want to watch multiple games and do it as a job of watching as many games as possible. Stephen, I have to sit through some of the god-awful games that go on and write notes on all of them. ESPN Play was down for the whole day. What a clever day for ESPN Play to go down on a college football Saturday. That was a great joy to go through as well. So then I had to explain why I was watching a white blank screen for 6 hours instead of being able to go out and do something with our time, because I was waiting for it to come back on. So all in all, it was a great Friday and Saturday.
No, and this is it. I think sometimes you try and put yourself through those rom-coms. I must admit, I'm not a big fan of them myself. And it reminds me actually of what I watched today. I actually sat down with my eldest and watched the first ever Harry Potter movie. I'd never watched it in my life. And
they're excellent.
That was 2.5 hours of my life that I'll never get back.
Not the first one. The first one's awful, but once you get to around 4 or 5, Hermione matures a bit. There becomes, sort of a sex appeal aspect. It gets a bit darker with some of the magic, and there's death involved. You get a bit cooler and more interesting as you go through them. I like them.
Oh, the first one just...
it's abysmal, the first one.
2.5 hours.
You don't need to know about the first one.
Well, I thought I'd start him down that particular road because he likes...
Oh, but his age, you don't want to feel that young, you hold that back, let him mature into that one, Stephen. I'd hold them back for a good couple of years, but the first and second one, we can have them, but if you have to be watching them, I'd maybe veer clear of the first and second one. They can be a bit like, kicking the bollocks.
Yeah, I mean, what I could have probably done was just probably put my headphones on and watched... maybe one of the collegiate football games from the Saturday, and then we could have just we could have forgotten, or I could have forgotten I was even in the same room as him whilst he watches that one, because it was absolutely dire. I actually spent more time just talking about the British actors and actresses who are in the movie rather than watching it, which probably drove my son up the wall.
Yeah,
anyway.
Great analysis for the young fella to listen to the acting careers of some of the top class guys that feature in that first Harry Potter film, and good luck explaining why Dumbledore changes so much from number 1 to number 2, which if you don't know, there's that does happen. Good luck explaining.
Oh, I can't wait. So there we go. Spoiler alert already. And now I'm
spoiler for people who haven't yet seen the second Harry Potter. Dumbledore is different in the first one to the second one. I also, was it Friday or Saturday, I tweeted you, I can't remember, I watched Mr. 3000, Stephen.
I meant to ask you about that. What did you think of that?
Excellent. It was truly excellent. I absolutely loved every minute of it. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was moving. These are the sort of things that I don't understand why my girlfriend wouldn't enjoy. It had everything there for all the family. I could advertise that film for them. I thought it was genius, and I could picture it happening where a guy's 3 runs short of that 3,000 figure to get into Cooperstown, New York, and the ending is excellent. It was always predictable. I didn't think he was going to get the 3,000th run. I thought there'd be something there, and I loved the way they did the sacrifice bunt and everything, and they won the game, and then the kid who was obviously on Steads, who was the superstar, upstart, fell in love with him, and he was his mentor and stuff. I thought it was just a great all-round film, though. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed it.
This is it. I mean, the magical 3,000 hits to get into Cooperstown is, it kind of sets you apart. And it was kind of a funny way of doing it. And it's very sad in a way that Bernie Mac has unfortunately passed away, and he was only 50 when he did he did pass, because he is, for me, one of the great funny men. And if you've seen him in that, or you might have seen him in the Friday movie, or Ocean's 11 or something like that, or even if you're a big fan like I am, you may have seen him on his own TV show, or even some of the stand-up stuff he did with Def Comedy Jam. The guy is a genius, really, really funny, and Mr. 3000 is a good, fun family movie. And there are some good sports movies about, and if you take them a bit light-hearted, that's one of your light-hearted ones that you could probably sit down with your other half, and hopefully she'll find it quite amusing.
Yeah, she wasn't interested when I tried to explain to her that this guy's going to be free run short. She wasn't interested. I had to sit with the iPad on my own watching that one. In the same room, though. I had the headphone. It was an interesting way of watching films I'd never done. If you have a Netflix account, type in 3000, Mr. 3000 comes up. I was looking for an ESPN 30 for 30. It popped up, and I was like, well, Steven's talking about this one. Let's rock and roll. Steven, we've already gone into plenty of time. We've got some shout-outs and stuff to do. We're going to chat about the NFL. We've got an interview with Kevin Lee to come up. That's going to be a great one. Discussing Kevin with all sorts of stuff, with every major sport from in Indianapolis, Stephen, is where the guys is based. That's going to be a good interview. And then we're going to get into some other stuff with First Take. Stephen, first of all, before we get into the personal shout-outs, this is a show that's probably going to stretch out to 2 hours. We had an interesting rate on iTunes this week, if you want to explain some more for the listeners.
Yeah, we asked our listeners to rate us, and we've had a rating coming from a guy at Bill's shows.
Yeah, name and shame. Happens Ghost.
Which it's basically, I mean, his only real criticism of the show was that it is too long. Okay, I mean, it is a criticism, and the only thing I'd certainly say, and probably Ollie would probably echo my thoughts, is that we're doing this show on 5 nights a week, and if you take, I think, the US equivalent of First Take, that is around about an hour and a half. We do try and keep the shows down to an hour and a half.
Oh, we could go on for 4 hours if we A, had the time, and B, had the topics.
This is it, but I mean, I think sometimes it does stretch itself to that 2 hour mark, and you know that's I think where we all come in and say that it's going to be between an hour and a half and 2 hours. It's going to be solid chat, and unfortunately, I can't really see any other way of really shortening it down, because there's still an awful lot of stuff that me and Ollie write down during the day that we tweet back and forth.
It's the cutting room floor.
Yeah, that we talk about the format of the show, that we end up saying, no, we can't do that. And we're also trying to get some guests on the show, and I can certainly speak for the 2 interviews we've done recently with Kevin and Chuck, that we ended up having the actual format of the interview we'd actually put down. We chopped stuff out of that as well, because we knew that we had to cut it down. So we're trying to get guests in, and obviously that's going to take up part of our show. And if we only have that, as well as in the rest of the show, people want to keep us down to about an hour and a half, it's going to be a little bit difficult, because then you're not going to get in everything that we should do, and there are some topics that we need to discuss. And if anything else, the reason why we've moved to 5 days a week now is because everything is hitting us. You've got the baseball playoffs, you've got the NBA coming up, we're going to devote more time to the NHL because that season's almost upon us. You've got college football, we've got the NFL, we've got the collegiate basketball season starting to get underway. So for us to do those sports justice, we're going to have to stay around about that 2 hour mark, and I'm hoping that the general consensus from our listeners is that 2 hours is not too much of a push.
Yeah, my only major gripe with it is, what more can we do? There's no 2 hours. I mean, it's okay, it's a length of time, but there's nothing that says you have to listen all in one go. Pause the thing. If you haven't got 2 hours at one particular time, pause the thing. Run a nice bath. Listen to some of it on your way in and from work. If you've still got half an hour left, run a nice bath. I'm not going to advocate having any electrics around the bath again, Stephen, but take the phone into the bathroom with you, take your iPod in, have it on loudspeaker, don't wear headphones, don't be silly, and just tune into the rest of the half hour of the show in the bath or something. Relax listening to the show. You should have no gripes listening to us. We do everything we can to supply the show. We ask for fan interaction on how to improve the show. And again, 4 stars is no shame. I'm not bothered about the 4 stars. That's fine. I've stayed in plenty of 4-star hotels, which are befitting of a 5-star hotel, Stephen. So 4 stars is no shame to me. If people don't like the length of time, let us know on Twitter, at UK First Take. If you want it cut down to an hour, we'll have to cut it down to an hour. Supply and demand, Stephen. That's what we'll do, but we like the format as it is. We give all our time that we can do to the show, and if you enjoy it being 2 hours, then we'll keep it at 2 hours.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, if we cut it down to an hour, the only thing I would say against that is that if we do cut it down to an hour, then you're probably going to have to say no guests, and you're not going to get everything covered that you might want to hear out of a podcast. So I think you've got to find a happy medium. And I think me and Ollie, when we first started talking about this, we were only going to do 3 days a week. That's what we first originally signed up to do. We was going to do 3 days a week, and it was going to be around about an hour and a half. And at that point, we weren't having guests. But now we're starting to get some guests on the show. People that do want to talk to us. And interact with a couple of guys knowledgeable guys from the UK. And that's now the product we're going to put out there. I mean, I suppose for me, when I listen to a podcast, I've got 45 minutes to an hour on the way to work. I go for a walk at lunchtime where I maybe take half an hour, so I listen to another half an hour then, and then another hour on the way home. So that's my 2.5 hours when I get in my time to be able to listen to podcasts or try and catch up with the latest sports stories that are going on or writing the show. So I'm normally, if anyone sees me on the train, I'm normally sitting there scribbling notes for an interview or the show that night and listening to something else. So. And that's the way I do it. I think if people do want to see an hour, then please let us know. But I say my caveat to that is that you just need to think about what an hour might mean.
Yeah, I've never ever listened to a show and thought this is too long. Not our shows, I mean other shows. I never thought this is too long. I often think these are too short. It's like I wish I had more. I never sat there and thought, well, this is well too long. Anyway, we're getting off the point. We're rolling on about at Bill's Ghost. Thank you for the rate on iTunes, 4 stars. We appreciate it very much. We thank you for the constructive criticism. We did ask for feedback, both positive and negative, and you said we were good, knowledgeable guys and clearly enjoy doing what we do, and we do. And you left us with the thought that you thought it was too long for yourself. That's absolutely fine. And if other people think that, then we'll change the format up. But as is, I'm keeping it this way because I'm autonomous, and that's what I'm going to do. I enjoy doing this. I do this for me, and I enjoy it. So I'm keeping it as is at present, unless everyone else tweet us at UK First Take. If you want it to an hour, I'll change it to an hour. But at present, 2 hours is good by me. Stephen Edwards, we've got to get on to some NFL talk, but we do have to do our personal shout-outs for this show. We're always going to do one personal shout-out every show for ourselves, one from me, one from Stephen. Then we'll do a listener shout-out at the end of the show. Stephen Edwards, what's your personal shout-out for tonight?
My personal shout-out for tonight is a story that I read whilst I was watching the NFL tonight and before I came on air. And I was going to mention this story, but when Ollie said to me, you could do a personal shout-out, this is perfect. My personal shout-out tonight is to Gabby Agbon-Lahore. Gabby Agbon-Lahore is a player for Aston Villa Football Club, and today he took part in a charity friendly for the guy that had to stop playing. I think it's
Stilian Petrov.
Yeah, so he's had to stop playing. The funny bit comes in is that as part of the Celtic 11, a representative of that was from Ollie's favourite boy band, One Direction, and Lewis Tomlinson was playing for them.
Love him.
Gabby Agbon-Lahore tackled Lewis Tomlinson and sent him crashing to the ground.
Good man.
Tomlinson got up and I think for most people that saw it had a little bit of a limp and ended up leaving the field because there was some talk about him earlier on in the season playing a reserve team game for one of the smaller divisional sides over here. But poor old Gabby Agbon-Lahore has now started receiving death threats over this. But so my personal shout out, you've done what a hell of a lot of people would love to see you do, and you've actually put a One Direction singer on the shelf, and he's no longer allowed to play football. Agbon-Lahore, I salute you.
I salute Gabby Agbon-Lahore for that. So a little personal side note on One Direction. You mock me liking the One Direction. Harry Styles comes from down the road from me. I've actually been out on a few nights out with Harry Styles when he was when he was not famous, and he used to sing then, and he used to annoy everyone. He was a really cool guy. Right now, I think he's coming across as a bit of a knob in the wider media, but he was in his younger days when I used to know him. Alright, and he used to play football, European football, in around the local area. Was actually quite a cool, nice guy. So a little personal note there that I know Styles. I don't want any directioners tweeting me, ask me for any details on Harry now. I have no like knowledge or interaction with Harry now. I just used to when we used to go out when we were younger. That's about that. That's a side note. Good play, Louis. Good play, Gabby Agbonlahor. I like that. Kick him. They're just booting him everywhere. Why not? I'd have done it. It'd have been good fun. My personal shout out for the night, I'm going to give it to my girlfriend then, Steven, because Saturdays and Sundays she works through the week. She waits for the weekend. We're now into football season. I spend 48 hours over 2 days evaluating football game tape. It's been a long one. Actually, you know what? Let me revert that. I've already mentioned Molly already tonight. I'm going to go with Coach PJ Fleck and the Western Michigan Broncos. For those who do not know, I have a close connection with the Western Michigan Broncos and Coach Fleck in particular for US Sports Media, which is what this podcast is branched under, as well as UK End Zone and some other things, Overtime Island, all branched under US Sports Media. And we have a nice affinity with the Western Michigan Broncos. Unfortunately, they've not started the season fantastically. Coach Fleck is the youngest head coach to have ever coached an FBS football program in collegiate football. And started the first game of the season very well against Michigan State, where they should have been heavily beaten, and almost pulled out a victory to only lose on the final possession of the game. They played really well. Last night they played against... who did play against? Nichols State. They played against, which is an FCS school. They should have absolutely trounced them, and they actually lost. So that was a devastating blow to the guys. Actually dropped a message to Coach this morning, who responded, and I thank him very much for that. And a nice little DM. He's all upbeat. If anyone knows Coach Fleck, think of Brendan Rodgers with more cheesy catchphrases and more energy. That's exactly what he is, an innovative young thinker with even more cheesy catchphrases. Not sure if he has a self-portrait in his own house, though, like Brendan Rodgers does. So shout out to Coach Fleck and the Western Michigan Broncos, who will keep rowing the boat, and I'm sure are going to do very well this season and in the future.
No, here. And we certainly wish him all the very, very best. Okay,
then. On to the NFL discussion. As we record this now, Stephen, let's peel back the curtain and let people know where we are up to on this Sunday evening. We've seen all the early games. The late games are in session, as I think people say. I think we're in the fourth quarter of both games, which is St. Louis, Arizona, and then the big one between the Packers and the 49ers. Do you have any idea of the score at the moment?
As we stand at the moment, the Packers have just taken the lead against the 49ers and lead 28-24 just under 8 minutes ago. And if anyone listened to the NFL preview show before they've listened to this show, that's my tip to be the NFC Championship game. And in the other one, the Arizona Cardinals and the St. Louis Rams are at 24 apiece.
Good stuff. So
a couple of close games.
So what's been your biggest takeaway? I mean, we will get to the more professional First Take UK format that, if you're a new listener, we do go to a structured format of topics and such, and we go backwards and forwards. But just for this first opening Sunday, Steve, we've had all these early games. We'll probably get more into tomorrow and in the coming weeks about this first slate of games, breaking down them more when we've been able to go back and watch pretty much all the games in the coming weeks. But what's been your main takeaway and your biggest point from these first games, probably from a personal note from watching your team to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the early game that I watched was the Dolphins and the Browns, and anyone that knows me knows I'm a huge Miami Dolphins fan. I did have one eye on the Falcons and the Saints as well, but I was mainly watching the Dolphins and the Browns. So my positive point that's come out of this game is Ryan Tannehill. For me, absolutely superb. Hooked up with Brian Hartline for, I think it's 8 catches and over 100 yards, and his general play from the quarterback position, he looked very composed in the pocket. He was intercepted once, but that was on a tip pass, so you can't always hold that against a quarterback. I thought he ran the offense as best as he could and got Miami out of a lot of problems when the running game just didn't seem as though it could work at all. Lamar Miller, for me, was absolutely shocking as a running back, but again, he wasn't a help because the offensive line was very, very poor as well. And Cleveland were having a field day getting into the backfield and putting pressure on Tannehill, but Tannehill showed that composure. And on the other side of the ball, Miami came up with 3 interceptions in the first half, as well as Wake coming up with 3 sacks as well. And that was 3 of 6 sacks on the day, as the Miami defense showed what they can do on their side of the ball. And when you look at it, really speaking, we had a much better down defense than they did. And if our offensive line had shown any sort of protection at all for Tannehill and our running game, then Miami would have run away with this game quite comfortably.
Now, my major takeaway to begin with, Stephen, is our fantasy football league. We are currently emblazed in a grudge match between Dio's Virginity and the London Lions 2013. Good shout out for the London Lions. Great sponsorship deal. Well done, Stephen Edwards. We are enthralled and we are battling as we speak right now on air.
Yeah.
You've got some guys involved. You've got Tavon Austin, I'm looking here. You've got the Cardinals defense. I've got Larry Fitzgerald, who is killing it, by the way, at the moment. Not sure if you've seen, 80 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns, has given me 20 points. My second highest scorer thus far in fantasy football. As we stand, I am on 96 points. You're on 48.5, which may sound bad, Stephen Edwards, but do not fear. I don't know if you noticed, because you did tweet me earlier saying you are killing me so far in fantasy football, and it's all because of Adrian Peterson. If people haven't heard, go back and listen to our fantasy football special. We did our draft live on air with loads of other fans of the show. We did a live fantasy football draft. Go and dig that show up. It was great fun. I had the first overall pick, took AD, 29 points today. What's that? 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown, 93 yards, rushing, 18 yards receiving, 29 points. But Stephen, you still have RG3, David Wilson, and Alfred Morris to come. This is going to be a close one.
Yeah, I need some big performances. I certainly need a good performance from Washington against Philadelphia on Monday night. And I did and ah about whether to put in Romo.
Oh, I remember you and ah about that.
I did and ah in Romo. I even asked one of our guests about whether I should put Romo in and instead of RG3, but no real forthcoming answer at that one. So I decided to roll the dice and see if RG3 could pull this one out. But yeah, I've been undone by not having the first pick in the draft in this respect.
Oh, come on.
Adrian Peterson has just proven what I said earlier on in our NFL preview, that he is the best offensive player
Excuse
in the NFL.
Excuse me, okay, you just put it all on Adrian Peterson's shoulders. Shane Vereen was my flex player today. He got 15 points. You know, Mike Wallace only had 1 point. Tyler Eifert had 4 points. Chris Johnson had 7 points. I think it was a very smart move to put Shane Vereen in. Cam Newton only had 12 points, you know. Larry Fitz currently has 20 points. That's a heck of a lot of fantasy points. I say the smart money at present is on me, but I can see a situation where RG3 and Alfred Morris go crazy on the ground because that Eagles rush defense is atrocious. You've got a real genuine chance, but, you know, I do fancy my chances at the moment. I hope Larry Fitz keeps going off in this fourth quarter anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting game. And St. Louis have just taken a 27-24 lead as we speak. And San Francisco are now ahead 31-28 as well. So back and forth games, you know, we'll certainly be seeing a lot more of the Packers and the 49ers as we move on.
How great is this opening day been? Every single game, except for the KC Chiefs-Jags game, going into the fourth quarter was a one-score game. Every single game. It was crazy.
This is it. Has today, or has it not, been the rebirth of the safety?
Yes. Opening kickoff of the season. The Tennessee Titans, I can't remember the poor fella's name, fields the ball at the 1 yard line and then walks back into his own end zone, takes a knee thinking that can count as a touchback. No, my friend. You have to take it out if it's not already kicked into the end zone, you muppet. And therefore you gave up 2 points, which is the only points the Steelers scored until I think it was the fourth quarter. Their offense went 0 points till deep into the fourth quarter. That was embarrassing.
But let's put it this way: Muppet of the Day is not reserved for that guy.
Oh no,
there is somebody that trumps that.
Dish out the name, because let's just get straight into that guy now. And what did you think of the crazy reactions of? I want to say Ladarius Davis. I think was the fella who caused the unnecessary roughness penalty on Geno Smith with 4 seconds on the clock. New York Jets were basically out of field goal range, way out. He gives an unnecessary roughness penalty against Geno Smith when Geno's clearly out of bounds. For some reason, pushes him the cornerback from Tampa Bay, and moves the Jets into field goal position. They then kick the field goal and win the game by a point.
Levante Davis, and it's just ridiculous. He was literally out of bounds. It would have meant somewhere in the region of a 60-plus yard field goal attempt. So, whether you maybe take it, I don't know what Nick Folk's leg's like, whether or not he would have been able to make that field goal, but he then turned it into a 48-yard field goal attempt, which the guy nailed. And I think, to be fair, having seen it go through the uprights, I don't think the guy's got a leg to put up a 63-yarder.
No.
So, for me, the most stupidest play of today was that one play, and that just, it gifted a team that is so shockingly bad a win that they shouldn't get. And you've got other teams around the league that fought hard and didn't get the wins you think they might deserve. Obviously, you got Green Bay in a tough, tight game. Atlanta were very close against the Saints. That went right down to the wire. Anyone who saw the
last play,
the end of that game, defensive stand by the Saints right at the very end. I mean, the shocking for me, I think, in some respects as well, was that the Colts only won by 4 over the Raiders. That was incredibly shocking.
And I'd tipped that game all week to be Andrew Luck's history-making game, and do I have egg on my face right now that they go 21-17 at the Oakland Raiders. An Oakland Raiders team, by the way, who have 2 starters on the offensive line. One of them joined on Wednesday, and one of them joined last Tuesday. As in, not the Tuesday just gone, the Tuesday before. They have 2 guys starting on their offensive line who've only joined the team since training camp ended. And they put up 17 points. That was very impressive, Oakland. Terrell Pryor had an immense game on the ground and through the air. He threw a couple of dimes that should have been touchdowns where his receivers forgot that they have to put 2 feet down because they're not in college anymore. So I was very impressed with him. Andrew Luck played well. He led another drive at the end to win the game. It was a rushing touchdown, excellently converted from, I think, about 15 yards out. He dragged the ball down and just ran with all the space in the world. So he led another come-from-behind victory, which puts pain to the fact that people saying they can't win 7 games from behind in the fourth quarter anymore, like they did last year. That was all luck. Yes, it was all luck, but it was all Andrew Luck. Of course they can do it. He's just got that gene. He's got that knack. Montana had it. Elway had it to some respects. Brady has it, and I think this kid's got it as well. Come from behind victories aren't always luck, unless you're talking about Andrew Luck. I think this kid is super special, and there's no reason why you can't do it time and time again because he's that good. You're always in the game with him. New England Buffalo was the game I was focused on, Steven. What were your impressions from afar of the New England Buffalo game?
I mean, I didn't see a lot of it because watching the Dolphins game, but I did manage to turn over and watch the very end of the game. I mean, for me, if you take a look at it on paper, I think you've quite shocking in a way that's how close that game was. I mean, I fully expected the Patriots to have more than enough to beat the Bills. From what I gather, New England's play was quite sloppy.
Yeah, incredibly.
Got more than enough talent to win that game. EJ Manuel made some nice plays for the Bills, which I think should give the Bills fans some hope going into the season. Not in terms of winning a whole lot of games, but maybe they've got a quarterback that they can ride with this season, and they can get some wins along the road and have a bit of success. But you always felt that the Patriots are going to pull it out, and in the end, they managed to get the game-winning field goal, so it didn't really surprise me. But was there any players that stood out for you as having good games for the Patriots, despite it being sloppy?
Yeah, from the Patriots side of things, Vereen had an excellent game. Stephen Ridley had an awful game. He actually fumbled the ball, I think, in the second quarter. Might have been the first quarter, and we never saw him again. Belichick just benched him, which I thought was excellent. Good coaching. Interesting to see Zach Sudfeld and Kendrell Tompkins, who have been talked up all this preseason from all the great stuff they did, being deemed fantasy sleepers, could become stars this year. Both were non-factors. They were benched as well. They were just awful in the game. Tompkins was alright in the fourth quarter. Other than that, just like you said, sloppy's the word for those young lads. And Brady absolutely chewed him out on the field a couple of times. He was not impressed at all with what he saw. It just showed you how much the playbook was diluted for the preseason when Brady was so on song and it looked like these guys were so good. When they get to the real thing and they want to use their real playbook, which they know can be so explosive and so good against teams, these kids aren't up to scratch yet. And there's a reason why a lot of these guys go undrafted. It's not always the physical tools. It's a lot of mental tools that they can't pick up the playbook as well as some other lads. And I think we saw that today with the side. I mean, Amendola had a great game, but again, he went off halfway through the match for about, I think, a quarter with a groin injury. He had to take some players off. There was no Gronk. The defense wasn't as good as it should have been, in my opinion. It was a very interesting game from start to finish. It basically started with the Bills not wanting to win the game, and then the New England Patriots looked like they wanted to win the game. They go up 10-0, I think it was. Then the Patriots decided they didn't want to win the game. The Bills said, all right, we'll win the game. Then the pair of them decided neither of us should win the game. It was that sloppy. The Bills gave up around 100 yards, I think it was, in penalties. They were abysmal in the first half on penalties and turnovers. So indisciplined, so sloppy. But my main takeaway from the entire game, and it's got nothing to do with the New England Patriots, is twofold in the fact that I think I'm bang on about Doug Marrone straight away. The guy isn't a winner. The guy coached, I think, an awful game. I think you can see already some of the ill disciplines that he's brought from college to the pros. I think really aren't going to help the team. But EJ Manuel was superb. He had all the poise in the world. He commanded the huddle. There was every faith in Manuel when I think that they were a score away from the Patriots in around the third quarter. They thought every time they came on the field, the fans and the huddle just breathe confidence. And I've never seen that in the past decade against the Patriots. They go into that. They've got an inferiority complex against the Patriots. It's obvious. And he just looked like he just blew it away. And he was like, all right, let's get in this huddle. Let's drive down the field and let's just get a score, field goal or otherwise. And he was very, very impressive for me today.
No, they took advantage of the turnovers that you had to convert those into points with the Ridley fumble and also the Brady fumble as well. But I mean, is there some concerns from a Patriots point of view, or is it still really a bit too early to say? I mean, I suppose for me the concern would come along if Gronkowski comes back and then has maybe another injury or isn't able to be a valuable contributor to the team this season. I think that would be my concern from your point of view, because there are teams in the AFC that could potentially knock off the Patriots.
Okay, any other major takeaways to take from this week one of NFL football? As I say this, the Arizona Cardinals have just lost 27-24 to the St. Louis Rams, who go 1-0 on the season and get a good divisional win there. That's at home? Yes, that's at home. So
it is
good stuff there. Any other major takeaways from you before we get over to Kevin Lee?
I've already said about the guy. Go and watch Adrian Peterson. Just absolutely phenomenal.
First play from scrimmage for me. And did you see that? It was just ridiculous. What was it, 78 yards? First play from scrimmage, a simple handoff down the 1-0 to Adrian Peterson. He jukes a couple of players and takes it to the house. And I'm there like that, just on my knees cheering for my fantasy football team, marching all over Mr. Edwards' London Lions.
Just phenomenal. Adrian Peterson is just an absolutely phenomenal athlete. And I suppose we can't not mention Peyton Manning's performance on Thursday night.
Let's move on.
No, we can't not mention it. I mean, it was 7 touchdown passes, equalled a record. We can't fail to mention it. It's just unfortunate, of course, that we haven't had any shows since then up until tonight. But I mean, that's still probably the standout performance of this weekend's opening games. And yet we still have a Sunday night game, which we'll touch on tomorrow night's show. And then we'll touch on the Monday night games on our Tuesday show as we look back at those, and there's some intriguing matchups coming up then as well.
Yeah, my final takeaways from the first slate that we've had this weekend. First of all, to touch on the Peyton Manning game, it was sensational. I'm only joking around with the guy. My favourite fact from the whole thing, which I tweeted out the other day, was his second half, which I think was 300 plus yards. I think he had 5 or 6 touchdowns. Was better statistically than any game ever played by John Elway, Roger Staubach, and Terry Bradshaw. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And you know how high I think of John Elway. I think he's the best quarterback we've ever seen in terms of what he could physically do, and the fact he grabbed 2 Super Bowls as well. You got Staubach, who's a proven winner. Terry Bradshaw has, I think 3 or 4 championships.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous that his second half can be that good. My second takeaway, I thought the Seattle Seahawks looked really sloppy. I mean, we spoke about Pete Carroll on the last show. You think he's your coach of the year. And I've been trumping up these Carolina Panthers all off-season. And I thought they really brought it today. And I thought they were gonna edge that game out. I thought Cam and company could just edge that game out. And we saw just how loaded their defense really is. Now they had star Lotulelei, Luke Kuechly was just phenomenal from the Mike linebacker position. And Seattle's spread option, they didn't use it much, but when they did use it, it was really ineffective. I say for any coach out there in terms of in the National Football League or otherwise, even if you're just lower down the ladder over here and you're looking to defend the spread option, not out of the pistol, but out of the one-back spread option, go and check out how Carolina defended it against Seattle. They did a phenomenal job. They basically spied every play. It was really incredible what they did to shut down Russell Wilson in the run game.
No, I completely agree. I mean, I think, Seattle were very, very poor. They managed to put up 12 points, but again, we talked about it before, their defence is very, very good, and in the end, the defence got them home. And against, if they hadn't got that defence, or maybe they were against a better offence, they maybe wouldn't have won that game. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a worry, and it kind of goes back to what I said about the Patriots. Are we worried after one game? Possibly not. It's just a matter of whether or not it becomes a worrying trend.
They're too good and too deep of a roster to worry about them. They'll be absolutely fine. It's just week one. I can't get involved in hyperbolics and people all going out their mind over the first week. I've seen some crazy predictions already because a team won and a guy didn't look too good. I mean, for example, the Bears knock off Cincinnati by 3 points. People are going out of their mind, going batshit crazy, pardon my French, about the Bengals now being all hard knocks hype. They're still a phenomenal football team, so they'll be fine. Everyone will be fine.
Exactly. I've got them down as the Super Bowl winners.
You do. They'll be fine, Stephen. Don't worry. You'll still have egg on your face. That could easily be the Kansas City Chiefs pick of last year when it became the sexy pick to pick the Chiefs and then they ended up having the first pick in the draft. That would be very funny on this end of the mic if that happens to you.
It's not going to happen.
Here's hoping. Okay, let's move on. We've already talked at length here about the first weekend of the NFL. We've given our shout-outs. Now let's get into an interview we did the other day, Stephen. Kevin Lee, a play-by-play announcer for the Indiana Pacers, also heavily involved in productions with the Indianapolis Colts. Just a real top guy. It was fantastic to talk to him, Stephen, and let's listen to what he had to say. Okay, we're delighted to welcome tonight to the debate desk here on First Take UK a guy who is the Pacers radio, works for the Pacers radio network and is the sideline reporter for the Indianapolis Colts radio network. Mr. Kevin Lee, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Stephen, we are delighted to welcome Kevin onto the show.
No, we absolutely are, and appreciate the time he's been able to give to our listeners.
Kevin, we're going to jump straight into this thing. We want to kick off by asking you about your broadcasting career, if that's all right. And we just want to know, when did you decide that this was the career path for you, and how long have you been doing this for?
Probably when I was about 14 or so, I first had the idea. I think that was probably about the time that I knew I wasn't going to make it as a Major League Baseball player. So at some point, once my high school career was over, it was time to find something else to do. And our high school had a radio station, so I started doing this when I was just 15, maybe 16 years old, and did play-by-play basketball and football in high school, disc jockey, things like that, and then did the same things and worked at little radio stations when I was in college, so I guess I've got about 25 years in now at this point.
Fantastic. So you've been in the game a fair length of time now. So during that time, is there any people that you've looked up to within the broadcasting fraternity?
Probably people that you're not familiar with, and I've been fortunate enough to really work with all the people that were my heroes as broadcasters in the state of Indiana and in the Indianapolis area when I was a kid. Mark Boyle became the voice of the Pacers probably when I was about a junior in high school, and he still is, and I've worked with Mark now for the last 19 years. He's certainly been a mentor. Bob Laney, race fans might remember him. He's was the voice of Turn 4 for the 500 radio network for many years back in the 80s and 90s. He's the guy that you hear in the famous 92 finish out of Turn 4 when Allenzer Jr. held off Scott Goodyear. But he's been the voice of the Indianapolis Colts for all but 3 years since 1984. And Bob hired me as an intern when I was in college and talked the radio station into hiring me for my first job just a couple of years out of college. So certainly Bob. Some other guys like Don Fisher. And from a national standpoint, I think Al Michaels is the guy that I've never met Al Michaels, but I think he's the best in the business. And we work at the same network, but we're far on different levels at this point. at NBC, but for doing football, basketball, he did baseball back in the day. He, obviously, from the Olympics, I think Al Michaels is as good as anybody.
No, he really is a top-notch announcer.
Kevin, what's been the greatest moment in your broadcasting career so far?
You know, I've been pretty fortunate to get to do a lot of cool things. I was a broadcaster for the Pacers when they reached the NBA Finals in 2000, so I sat courtside for an NBA Finals game. Doing the Indianapolis 500 or being on the grid, not much tops that. And I think that's the biggest event. But as a Colts broadcaster, as a team broadcaster, when your team reaches the Super Bowl and you're not just broadcasting the event, you feel like you have something at stake. You get a ring if they win, that kind of thing. So I would still say, and I wasn't with the Colts when they won the Super Bowl. I started with them the next year. But just being on the sideline for the beginning of Super Bowl, the beginning of the Indy 500, the moments in the hour before that, that's an emotional time as well. But I think it's still different if you're a participant. And even though you're not playing in the game, you're still part of the team. You're wearing team colors. So I'm sure it's the same way that a pit crew member feels, or maybe the PR rep for a particular team in the Indy 500 when you have a chance to win it. So I think the Super Bowl is the most memorable moment that I have.
No, that's fantastic, Kevin, and I certainly think that'll give our listeners an insight into how you started your career. We've got the NFL and the NBA seasons just around the corner. I thought it'd be fun to talk to you about your Pacers and Colts, as well as the leagues in general. Starting with the Colts, how blessed have the Colts been to have back-to-back franchise quarterbacks in Peyton Manning and now Andrew Luck?
Yeah, that's remarkable, and that just doesn't happen. And we all wrestled with the decision, not that we had any play in the decision, but with Jim Irsay and the Colts organization's decision. And I'll admit, I was very skeptical. I knew what people were saying about Andrew Luck, but there have been quite a few number one overall picks that are no more than good. And I just felt like you had a better chance of Peyton Manning, even after missing an entire year. I felt like you had a better chance of him coming back and being a top 5 quarterback for 3 more years than you had for this unproven college kid to become a top 3 quarterback or a top 5 quarterback at any time. So I was a little bit skeptical, and I'll admit I really hoped they would win a couple of games that year so they wouldn't have the number 1 overall pick, because if that would have happened, Peyton Manning would still be with the Colts. Obviously, I was wrong, and it could not have worked out any better. And obviously they knew what they were talking about and knew what they were getting in Andrew Luck, and he is everything you could ask for and more. Now, he's still a young quarterback. He's still in his second year, so he's going to make mistakes this year, and he's going to throw interceptions, but I've never seen, even including Peyton, anyone smarter about the game of football and in general than Andrew Luck. I'm not going to say he's smarter than Peyton Manning, but I think you've got the same type of skill set, different personalities. He's a little more forgiving of teammates and mistakes than Peyton Manning is and was. And he's more athletic, though, as well than Peyton Manning is or was. He's the entire package. And to have 2 of those guys in a row is simply remarkable. It's a great stroke of luck.
Just to piggyback on what you said there about when Peyton Manning was, of course, leaving the Colts, it was such an emotional time for the fan base. Did Jim Irsay ever come to local media and try to get the message out there of exactly what they were doing? With it being such an emotional decision, did he ever feel the need to go to the local press and the local guys to get the word out there just why the Colts are making that decision?
He went to Twitter a lot, and that he seemed to be campaigning on Twitter, and he would go to the local columnist newspaper. There was a lot of talk from Irsay's camp at the time that we're just not sure if he's going to be healthy. We are not sure if it's in his best interest to play football. He's never said this, but I have to believe that he was hoping that Peyton Manning might retire. That would make things easy for everyone, because I'm sure that Jim Irsay was incredibly torn. Obviously, he was convinced, and as we said, he was right, that he could not pass up on Andrew Luck. He would regret that for 15 years if he did, and he was right about that. But he also, it wasn't just worried about the backlash from the fans. I think he just felt awful about parting with Peyton Manning. Ultimately, it was probably best for Peyton Manning, because I don't see any way the Colts won 11 games last year with Peyton Manning as their quarterback. The offensive line was not what it was when Manning was there, and he would have been crushed last year. He's not as mobile as Luck, and Luck helped out that offensive line. So I do think there was a little bit of politicking from both sides at the time of the PR spin. Ultimately, I do think they broke away with good feelings. I still think when Manning retires, he is going to have the opportunity to have a relationship with the Colts. I don't believe any real bitter feelings from Manning's side, and certainly not from the Colts side towards Manning.
No, I completely agree. I mean, talking about the Colts for this particular season, do you think the Colts can make a run at the Super Bowl? And if so, what are the main obstacles they need to overcome on their team to do so?
They can, but there are always a lot of obstacles, not just the competition, but you have to stay healthy. So in football, you can make your picks, and everyone makes their picks each year, but there are always one or two teams, like the Colts last year. And that was the only thing, it may have seemed like spin at the time, but I remember saying, all right, they went 2-14, but every year there's at least one team that goes from 3 or 4 wins to 10 or 11 and makes a big jump. So maybe it's the Colts this year. I'm not sure that I really believe that, but we knew it was possible. So that can happen. The schedule's harder. The NFL schedule is based on how you did the last year, so you play similar opponents the next year. I think they're better this year than they were. I think they've made upgrades, but I also think they could be better and not win as many games. They got tremendous luck last year. They won, I'm trying to remember, 7 or 8, maybe 9 one-possession games. I know they only lost one close game last year, and they won all the rest of them. They got some breaks, officiating that went their way. Everything that could go right most of the time went their way last year. So maybe you don't get those breaks this year. That's how you could win 9 or 10 and still be a better team. So the goal is just to get in the postseason and have a chance. And I would think that they're in that group of top 6, 7 teams that have just about as good a chance as anybody.
Kevin, if we can move to the association for a minute and talk about your Indiana Pacers. They gave the Miami Heat a hell of a scare last year in the playoffs, and the Heat are obviously going for that three-peat. The bang-on favourites with the odd makers to get that three-peat. What do you think the Pacers can though overcome them and maybe give them an upset after the scare in the playoffs last year?
I think the Pacers are better this year too, and they, I would think, would have to be thought of as the top contender in the East. That said, Chicago is going to be much better. Because they didn't have Derrick Rose the entire year last year. So that's one more heavy favorite. And some other teams like Brooklyn have made major changes and upgraded their roster. But the Pacers, if you're familiar with their story, their leading scorer for the last many years essentially didn't play last year, Danny Granger. And we still don't know for certain where he's at and if he's going to play. We think he's going to play, and we think he's going to be ready for October. We don't know if he's going to be what he was before, but if he is, or anywhere close to that, then they've essentially made a trade for an 18 to 20-point score without giving up anything. They've upgraded the bench. That was a real issue last year, and they've brought in some key people. They traded a guy that was not in their plans, that they had no desire to bring back in Gerald Green, and got a pretty solid big man, Luis Scola from Houston, who averaged about 12 points and 8 rebounds per game last year, and they're only asking him to play off the bench and back up David West. They re-signed West. They re-signed the guys that they wanted in the offseason. They changed their backup point guard. They have a couple of different guys in there that they think are upgrades from what they had last year. So on paper, it would appear like they're better. And again, the main nucleus is there. So it's not like they have to go through a major adjustment. It's just a bench that's made some changes. So again, if they stay healthy and continue to get improvement from Paul George, who is as exciting and talented as a young player there is in the league, and this is a franchise that had Reggie Miller, who went in the Hall of Fame last year, but I would say this, Paul George still has the chance of being the greatest NBA Pacer of all time, and he's the most talented Pacer we've seen, and he's a better defender than Reggie Miller or any other wingman that they've had that can score the ball. So I think this is the brightest the outlook has looked for the Pacers in at least a decade.
No, I completely agree. I think the bench is a definite upgrade, and I do think the Pacers can be one of those teams that's going to give the Miami Heat a real scare because of the physical nature the Pacers bring on a nightly basis, and that's something that the Miami Heat don't seem to like to come up against. And talking of that, I mean, the mentality for me comes from the coach, Frank Vogel. How good of a job has Frank Vogel done as the coach of the team?
Oh, he's been fantastic, and I know a lot of people were skeptical and wondered who is this guy that was just a video coordinator a few years before who looks so young. What is he doing as a coach? He took over when the head coach, Jim O'Brien, was fired a few years ago, and there was really no one on staff that was capable of taking over. Vogel was the best option available, so the thought was, well, he'll finish up the season, and then they'll go get someone. And I still think circumstances worked out in his favor. There was going to be a lockout after that season, and we weren't sure if they were going to play basketball at all. And the Pacers have been a franchise that have been struggling economically. They were struggling significantly as far as attendance at that time, and I still wonder if one of the reasons that they were willing to take a risk on Frank with a short-term contract was that he was going to make a third or a fourth the money that a big-name coach would. So why pay someone $3 or $4 million if we don't even know we're going to have a season next year? We were pretty certain it was at least going to be shortened. We like Frank. I'm speaking hypothetically from their perspective. So let's go ahead and give him a chance. And then if it doesn't work out after this shortened season, then we'll go get somebody else. Well, they came in. He does well. The players respect him, and they keep getting better and better each year. And obviously Frank has proven himself to be a very competent head coach, and it's a great story. You know, you go from, again, a guy who never played big-time college basketball who goes to Kentucky just because he wants to learn from Rick Pitino and become a student manager. And before he's 38 years old, he's an NBA head coach, and he's in the Eastern Conference Finals before he's 40.
Yeah, it's an incredible story, Kevin, a truly incredible story that you've ironed out there. We always ask, Kevin, when people come onto the show, particularly when they report on multi-sport teams within their area, we ask them which team do you think within that area, so within Indiana, is going to win a world championship next? Do you think it's going to be the Colts, or do you think it'll be the Pacers?
That's a good question, because they're both really at the same level. They're both at the same position. They're in that final 4 or 6 teams, I would think, that you would consider and give a chance. So for me to pick one would really just be flipping a coin, because I don't know that anyone would really have any real insight. I guess you could say it's the Colts, because I still think Miami is, if healthy, very, very difficult to beat. Even though they've had a couple of scares in each of the last couple of years, I still think it's going to be tough to get by them. So I guess if I had to choose, I would say the Colts, and maybe from that standpoint, the Colts will get the next chance at this championship. They'll play. They'll have a champion decided in February, and the NBA won't decide until June. So maybe they both can win next year.
I think that's the big issue we've had. Myself and Ollie have discussed various cities on this particular podcast, and any time we come up against the NBA, we're always faced with the Miami Heat, so you tend to discount the NBA team quite quickly in some respects and move on to some of the other sports. And again, that's the big thing that the Pacers have got to get past if they want to get to a championship. I think that's everyone realises that at Chicago, that they're going to have to go through Miami to get to the finals, and that's going to be incredibly difficult. Talking still of the NBA and looking slightly away from your Indiana Pacers, obviously Dwight Howard's gone to the Houston Rockets. Do you think that lifts them into title contention?
Oh, it makes them a good team and probably a better team, but I'm not sold on Dwight Howard as being a key player in a championship team. I just think there's a little bit too much drama going on. I think this is a challenge for him. He just simply has to play and shut up and get the job done at this point. But I was much higher on Dwight Howard 3 years ago than I am now. And now he's getting older. I really think beyond all the drama and not making up his mind about what he wants to do, he's getting older, and he's going to deal with more injuries. So I would not put them at the top of my favorite list. They're in the picture, but I don't think they're one of the top 2 or 3 at this point. I will, however, admit it's racing season for me, so I haven't really done a whole lot of deep thinking at all about the NBA. I'll start that in October.
Kevin, before we let you go, we understand you're pressed for time now. You've got to get off to your radio show. We're just going to fire a couple of quick questions, one each from the pair of us over to you right now. I mean, the NFL kicks off on Thursday night. We're all very excited over here. I'm sure it's going absolutely crazy over your neck of the woods. It's the Ravens versus the Broncos. The Broncos hosting that game. Who do you think wins the game between the Ravens and Broncos on Thursday night?
I think Denver is dealing with some issues, and again, I'm going to be quite honest. My main job in the summertime is IndyCar racing, so all I did for the Colts was the final preseason game, and that's all I'm doing for them at this point this season. So I can't give you tremendous insight on that. Baltimore is not the team they were last year. It's not just Ray Lewis. It's others that are missing from that team. So I guess I'll just go with the home team in this case. I know Von Miller's not available for Denver for the first 6 games, I believe it is. So if I have to make a pick, I'll take the home team and take Peyton.
Of course, the last quick-fire question, as it is football season, then let's put Kevin on the spot and ask him to see if he can try and predict this year's Super Bowl winner.
I have no idea. I don't do a talk show anymore in general sports. Racing is my deal. So I can't give you any intelligent answer on that at this point. So I would be wrong if I just threw out a name. You know, you can always talk about New England, but I think they certainly have some issues this season. So I want to hear, who do you pick?
For me, it is a very difficult one because it is a really open league, but I think I'm going to go with the 49ers.
I'm going to go
Good pick.
I'm going to go with my team because my team's New England, but I would also, especially in your position, Kevin, I'd go with the Colts, because if this worms its way back over to people over your end and you've not gone for the Colts, slam dunk them in to win the thing, you know, you could have some issues, sir.
I like it. I'll take that.
Kevin, I just want to thank you for taking the time to appear on our podcast. It's been really enjoyable. Can you let the listeners know where they can find you on Twitter?
At Kevin Lee 23.
Thanks very much, Kevin. It's been fantastic to have you on. Hopefully we can get you on again when your racing's done, but good luck with that and keep safe, because those things look really dangerous from what I see.
I thought you guys would have talked about racing. We've got a few Brits in IndyCar. That's pretty much my main focus at this point. But a pleasure. Nice to talk to you guys.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Take care.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
There he goes then, Steven. Kevin Lee.
Absolutely amazing. I mean, we got a chance to speak to him about how the Pacers are going to do this season. It was interesting to get his thoughts on the Indianapolis Colts, because we did the interview just before the NFL season started last week, and just an absolutely great guest. And that's what you're going to come to expect from us now, is that we're going to line up some great guests to come on this show, give their thoughts around their teams. Again, we had a bit of fun with Kevin to the City Championship one, and we'll try and do that with more and more guests as we try and get them on the show. But this is it. Great guest, and we thank Kevin for his time taken to appear on the show. Yeah,
he dropped some real big things for me. I thought, first of all, the Frank Vogel story was really interesting. That they offered him the contract because the lockout was short. They thought, let's give it to this kid rather than sign a big name coach because it's cheaper for the short term. And then he actually was pretty good, and they were like, oh bloody hell, now we'll have to offer this guy a contract. I thought saying that Paul George was more talented than Reggie Miller was a bold statement, and then saying that he thinks Andrew Luck will be better than Peyton Manning was another bold statement from an Indianapolis guy.
Yeah, no, so he knows how to put his neck on the line over
really does.
Some of those statements. I mean, there's an awful lot of people that hold certainly Reggie Miller in very high
that was the most shocking
as well as
for me.
Manning.
That's the only one I don't really agree with. Not that I can't disagree with the Frank Vogel story. I mean, I reckon he sort of knows what was going down in that situation. As talented as I think Paul George is, I mean, Reggie Miller is Reggie Miller. I mean, you cannot say that yet. As talented as you think he may be, and of course saying he's talented doesn't mean he's better. It just means he's more talented, naturally gifted as a basketball player. But for me, I don't think there's really a comparison to be drawn right now between Paul George and Miller.
I mean, for me, as a basketball fan of over 20 years, Reggie Miller is probably the best pure shooter I've ever seen play the game. I mean, Ray Allen comes probably a close second.
Yeah, Celtics bias for me, edged it to Miller. Not to Miller, sorry, to Allen.
No, he's a close second, but Reggie Miller is still a guy that I'd want taking that shot in the clutch. And the thing is with Reggie, as we've seen before, that the more you got under his skin, the better he performed. I mean, you know, anyone that has to look back at a couple of those games against the New York Knicks in the mid-90s knows what Reggie Miller is all about. And I sometimes maybe thought it would have been nice maybe if Reggie had been on the other side of the the floor and played in New York, because I think he would have thrived playing there.
I agree. Okay, Stephen Edwards, I'm going to hand over to you. So thank you again to Kevin Lee for that interview. He's at Kevin Lee 23, I believe, on Twitter. Double check that. Yeah. Go back to the interview. At Kevin Lee 23. Stephen Edwards, you take over this host hot seat and get us into the topics for tonight's show.
So this is our first take show, the first one we've done in a good few days. We've been concentrating on the NFL. So our first topic tonight is Jacob Ellsbury has gone down injured for the Boston Red Sox, and I know my good friend Ollie is trumping about how great the Red Sox are and how they're going to get to the World Series. He's kind of gone from being not a believer to being a bit heartbroken when the playoffs come around, to actually now beginning to think that they can actually do it. But for me, this Jacob Ellsbury injury is certainly very worrying from a Red Sox point of view. It broke early stage before we went on air that the return date they're hoping to be before the end of the regular season. But I think with this type of injury, you do have to worry about how this compressed fracture in his foot is going to affect him going forward, bearing in mind this guy is a close to 300 hitter. He's stolen 52 bases, so he's going to be he's a guy that provides that speed in the base paths. And is this going to affect him going forward? And I think this is going to be quite a problematic situation for the Red Sox.
Yeah, I don't like the idea that John Farrell's already said that he wants him back before the end of the regular season. I think just sit the guy. Let's get ready. Maybe bring him back with a couple of games, the last 2 games of the regular season, to sort of maybe get his eye in before the players. But just get him ready for the playoffs. We're going to make the playoffs. We'll be absolutely fine. The pitching has really stepped up. I am so impressed with Jake Peavy, the blind man that can. This guy pitches lights out every time I turn my TV on, and Jake Peavy's pitching. The Red Sox are just playing unbelievable baseball in the pitching department at the moment. I think that the pitching staff is much better than I ever thought they would be this season. The offense has really stepped up. 20 runs the other night, Stephen Edwards. Do you remember me tweeting you about that one when you said we couldn't beat the Dodgers in a series? And they put up, not the Dodgers, sorry, the Tigers. And we put up 20 runs in one night. That was a big time game. Ellsbury's a concern, and what concerns me is that it's a compression fracture.
Yeah.
This is an injury that I remember Michael Jordan out for a good length of time. It's incredibly hard to give a timetable back for the injury, so it's a wait and see. And as we know all the time, you as a Chicago Bulls fan, Washington Redskins fan, with RG3, when they call it a date, they're all wait and see injury. That's never good. You want a defined timetable. They could rush him back. They could leave it too late. I think they'll be absolutely fine though. They'll still win the division, and as long as he's back there for the playoffs, then everything's rosy. Everything's fine. If he's not there for the playoffs, does it concern me? Yes, it concerns me because he's a 290 hitter. He's playing really well there, and he's had a great season. I think he leads the league in stolen bases. So he's playing great ball, and so you need those guys out on the field. But it doesn't concern me to the point where we're going to have an immense drop-off now and not claim the pennant in the AL East. I think we'll be fine in that front, and then let's just try and get him back for the playoffs.
I think, the American League East is absolutely tied up, and we talked recently, and the league was down to something like 3 games or something like that in the end, or 3 or 4 games. Whereas now we're looking at around about 8 games. So Red Sox have played very well lately and have been able to put some distance between them and the Rays in second place. But for me, I think Red Sox fans are going to be too familiar with this scenario because Dustin Pedroia missed 3+ months in 2010 with regards to a fracture. And if you were talking about a guy, where are we now? We're around about the 9th of September, and they're talking about bringing him back in 2 to 3 weeks from this. That's not only incredibly dangerous, but incredibly stupid. And I think even if you do try and bring him back, are you going to have Ellsbury running the bases like he has been running the bases previously? No, you're not going to. So therefore, he's going to take some time to get back into the lineup and actually get himself ready for those playoffs and be comfortable on that foot that he can actually go and steal bases. I know the Red Sox are looking at potentially using Shane Victorino in that centre field spot, and Victorino was a part of the Phillies teams a few years ago, so he's going to give the Red Sox not too much of a drop-off, but for me, it's always a worry when one of your starting lineup players goes out. He's a guy that brings that much speed to the base paths, and you're not going to get that really with Victorino. So that's one of the dimensions we're taking out of that Boston lineup. And again, when you go against the Detroit Tigers, you're going to want every single one of your weapons available to you that you can then take on that team. I'll stress it again, and I'll stress it before, and I'll stress it again. You will have to face Verlander and Scherzer 5 out of 7 games. And I've heard a lot of Red Sox fans on Twitter, and most have been aimed at me, and they'll get exactly the same answer back to them. And anyone that read my Twitter timeline yesterday saw exactly the same answer go back to another Red Sox fan. You face Scherzer and you face Verlander 5 games out of 7, and you've beaten the Tigers in the series 2 games out of 3. We only faced one of those guys, and Miggy didn't play. It's not the same scenario. Don't fool yourselves into thinking that because you beat the Tigers 2 out of 3, that you can beat them 4 games out of 7 in the playoff series.
Yeah, I concur with you, Stephen. You know that I'm a pessimistic Boston fan, as most of us are, and those people who are getting excited about the 2-1 series that we won over the Tigers, just cool your jets, because we've been here before. Don't get too excited. We all know what's happening. I've told you since we started doing this show, Stephen Edwards, they will get me into the playoffs and they will break my heart. When everyone else was down them at the start of the season, in the middle of the season, when people were saying, look, they're going to fall away, it's a cast of no names, there's big time pitchers, there isn't too many big time bats in the order. I had total faith in them, and particularly in John Farrell and the organisation, to figure it out, and they have done. They've done incredible work. Winning the pennant will be enough for me this year. I think it's been a great season, and it's just enjoy it in the playoffs. That they will break my heart, because I know that by the time the playoffs come, I'll be right on the train. I'll be saying, look, we can do this. I'll defer to all those things that everyone else is doing. Look, we beat the Tigers in the series, but like you said, it was only a 3-game series. There was no Miggy. Scherzer, we beat him that night, but it was a 2-1 game. I mean, good luck keeping the Tigers down to 1 run again for that many games in the series. So, like you said, I mean, this injury isn't great when you lose someone to the starting lineup, but I think he's crucial, Ellsbury, in the fact that they need that guy, that lead-off hitter, to get on base. I think the Red Sox rely on that massively. They went through this before, like I said, with Pedroia. They went through it with Cody Ross, if you remember. I think he missed about 40 games when he was out with it. So you're talking the pair of the guys they've lost, of talking either just under 50 or over 50 games each time. So to rush him back, like you said, is a dangerous thought. But Ellsbury is a free agent, I believe, at the end of the season.
Yes.
So he's going to want to be out there for the big contract. They're going to want to squeeze every last ounce out of him if, like we believe, he isn't going to return to the Red Sox. I can see them rushing him back, whether it's in his best interest or not.
Yeah, I can see exactly the same. And for me, I don't think he'll be a Red Sox player next season.
Will he be in LA? Will they just sign? Will they sign Cano, Ellsbury, and just sign everyone who's on the market?
No, I mean, I've heard a story flying around that potentially one of the places he could end up is on my team, and I'm not entirely sure I'd like him. Bearing in mind these types of injuries do tend to become quite nagging. If Ellsbury has a bad foot injury, stay well clear, because that lad relies his fielding and his base running ability solely on speed. If he can't press off that foot as well as he could do in the past, and it's a niggling injury like you say, then I'd still well clear of offering that guy a big time contract. Yeah, and I think that he's going to want a big time contract, and I think
it's deserved without the injury. You know, if you take the injury side, I think he's deserved a big contract. I just don't want the Red Sox to give him one.
No, this is it. I mean, I think he is going to get that big-time contract, and I'm hoping the Mets will still go down the line of let's be sensible and let's not offer that money.
2-year plan.
Yeah, 2-year plan.
Okay, Stephen, where are you going to take me to next?
Right, moving on from Major League Baseball, it's an interesting story came out I think over the last 24 hours where we're just moving into the NHL coming upon us, and we're going to be doing a couple of NHL previews, one for the Eastern Conference and one for the Western Conference. We're trying to devote a bit more time to NHL hockey, and Ollie's going to get on board to doing learning more about the NHL. But this was an interesting story that came out of Chicago, the reigning Stanley Cup champions, who their general manager Stan Bowman's come out and said that his franchise players Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, who are unrestricted free agents at the end of the 2014-15 season, will be here forever. His actual quote was, "I can't predict what the salary cap will be in the future, but I can tell you that Jonathan and Patrick will be on this team," and basically just called it a non-issue. They will be here no matter what the salary cap is or what other conditions are thrown around. Now, For me, I think that's quite a dangerous thing to do because you sit there and promise the fans that these two guys are going to be here no matter what. They are your top two players. They're still very young guys, and you can't sit there and start guaranteeing that every time their contract will come up, they'll actually get those guys to sign those contracts because things happen. Players may want to go and play elsewhere, so you end up letting down the fans if that's the case. And at the same time, you end up putting pressure on those players, whether they want to play there or not, to potentially have to sign that contract to stay in Chicago if they still want to be popular players within that market.
Yeah, it's not just that. I mean, he's setting himself up for a complete fall. And again, I'm ignorant on the subject, Stephen. I am currently siphoning through Ice Hockey for Dummies, and I'm going a good fair way. And I'm going to learn all the rosters and everything because I'm good at that sort of stuff. We'll probably have that down by tomorrow. But in terms of just sport and this GM in particular and what he's come out and said, it just makes no sense for two reasons for me. Number one, set yourself up for a fall, like you said. If they miss out on getting one of these guys because they just want to move on. I don't subscribe to the thought that it pressures the guys into signing for the club. If they don't want to be there, they'll just move on to either more money or a different situation. What I understand, the Blackhawks are a very good team anyway, so if you want to win a championship, there's no reason for them to move on. They are the defending world champions. But it also sets you up poorly in the negotiation arena. If you're telling these guys that, look, you're going to be here for life, what stops the pair of them? And you said it doesn't matter about the salary cap. What stops the pair of them texting each other and saying, let's demand the same contract that basically amounts like 50% of the salary cap? I don't know what the salary cap is in ice hockey, Stephen, or what the average contract is. Just say for a tiny amount, say the salary cap is $30 million. Obviously it isn't that amount, but just say it is. What stops the pair of them texting and say, let's demand $10 million contract each? The Blackhawks already committed that we want these guys here regardless of the salary cap. So they're going to go into the negotiation room completely on the back foot. It makes absolutely no sense. Just come out and say, look, it doesn't matter what any of the circumstances are. These guys are that good. We love them so much. We're keeping these guys around here regardless. They can just chat to each other, or not even chat to each other, chat to the agent and say, look, they want you here no matter what. Just demand a crazy big contract and hope they bite.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think all they really need to come out and say is that, we hope to have these guys around. We're trying to lock up other major players on these contracts within our team, and we hope to do the same with Patrick and Jonathan, and they've been a key part of our success previously, and we hope they're going to be a key part of our success going forward. And that's all you really need to say. You don't need to be sending out these guarantees, and it's not something I've really heard before about a GM literally coming out and saying, in any of the four major sports, I guarantee you these players will be staying on this team, because it's just such a dangerous thing to come out and say. You should be hopeful, and I can't speak for Jonathan and Patrick. As far as we're aware, they're happy to still be Blackhawks players, and they're part of the reigning Stanley Cup champions, and they're trying to defend that cup. So yeah, I would expect them to stay around for now, but there's no guarantees they'll sign another contract after the end of that 2014-15 season with the Blackhawks. They may want to go elsewhere.
Yeah, I'd if it was me and I like you doing it with your GM voice and what you'd say, I'd go down the full-on Bill Belichick route, and I'd just flat bat it and be like, look, we're a championship-winning team, we're always looking to improve, we're going to evaluate the market as and when, and we're going to sign the best players available to us. I'd just go down that route, and then maybe stick in, look, we love these two guys, what is it, Jonathan and Patrick, I love Jonathan and Patrick, I think they're great guys personally, and we're going to evaluate how to improve the team in the future. That's it, enough said. Why go in and guarantee these things? Like, I've never heard of it. I've heard of owners and GMs guaranteeing they're going to make big moves in the upcoming off-season. It strikes me Mickey Harrison before the LeBron James, D. Wade, Chris Bosh trifecta arrived in South Beach. He was making lots of noises before that free agents class that they were going to make big moves in free agency because it was stuck to such a stacked free agent class. He guaranteed they were going to make big moves in free agency. But I've never heard of names being given and just confirming, look, doesn't matter what any of the circumstances are, we're signing these guys. Again, it comes down, the salary cap will matter. What happens if one of them demands the full salary? Does it not matter then? It just doesn't make any sense. It's just baffling. It's just a stupid move. And then, like I said, it sets you up for a fall. Where's the positive out of this? So the guys might be a bit happy. They might feel so loved. And if they're great players, they're going to play well anyway.
Yeah. I mean, this is it. So it's a bit of a strange one, and as we start covering more of the NHL, we will bring out more of these stories that are coming off the ice, and when the season gets underway, there's going to be plenty more of these things going along. And it's the one thing I think anyone that listens to the show that may be not involved in NHL, it is quite an even league. There are a lot. It's not as such as top heavy as some sports are. I think basketball can be regarded as being a bit top heavy. Football's
without the salary cap.
Football's quite across the board is quite nice. I think you've got like a nice group of teams you could potentially make a case for winning the Super Bowl. Baseball though is incredibly top heavy with the way that the luxury tax rules work and how teams can pretty much spend whatever they like. But hockey doesn't have that. Hockey has a hard salary cap. That is it. You've got to work within that salary cap. So it does allow teams to try and get into upper echelon of teams and not have to wait too long, and it does become harder to stay within that upper echelon, and you have to let players go to try and manage your salary. So it's an interesting league, and we will be doing a lot more to that. And as I say, we've got 2 conference previews coming up where we'll talk around some of the teams and players that people can look out for in the coming season. Before moving on to our next topic, I just want to touch on the fact that the 49ers have beaten the Packers 34-28. So that ends the second time slot of games for tonight, and obviously anyone who's staying up late in about half an hour's time will be settling in for the Cowboys against the New York Giants.
I'm more pumped for that game than I was for either the Falcons or Saints game or the 49ers Packers game, and I don't know why. I'm just super pumped to see Tony Romo rip it up and get people believing again before he lets them down. That's going to be fun. I also can't wait to get my hands on the game tape of that 49ers team and see how much they run out of the pistol, offset pistol, split back pistol. When people and analyzers and experts, I'm using quotes there throughout the word, they ran out the pistol, it makes me laugh because there's like 50 variations of the pistol. They run mainly out the offset pistol. I'm not going to bore everyone with it. So that'll be my nerdy stuff that I'm doing tomorrow, is writing down how many times they run out of the different sets of the pistol, not just out of the straight back pistol. So Stephen, though, before we do move on, and this is a question that I'm only going to ask loosely now, just for a quick sort of overthought, and I think we should get into this in a sit-down show, which we haven't done in a while. We need to get sorted. I know you're planning a special one with one of your good pals from the In All Airness podcast, but I need to do another sit-down show with yourself as well, a couple of beers for myself over this end of the phone, to chat about some sports. We've got lots to discuss in terms of the NCAA and all other factors. Major League Baseball, 2-part question, basically. Again, just a short answer. It'd probably be shorter than the question. If the New York Yankees weren't the New York Yankees and such a huge commodity, would Major League Baseball have a salary cap?
I think, no, they wouldn't. I think Major League Baseball has been set to, it's been set over such a long period of time now where they're so used to having these big spending market teams, and they've just let it go on. I mean, if you haven't got the Yankees, you've still got the Dodgers, you spend an awful lot of money now. You still got the Red Sox to spend an awful lot of money now. I know traditionally over a longer period of time, the Yankees have been that team that have overspent more money than anyone else, but I don't ever see baseball ever having a salary cap. It's never worked out well whenever it's coming to any sort of labour negotiations, anything like that mentioned. And the luxury tax is all it is just a compromise to get money spread around a collective bargaining agreement, and it just doesn't work. And the small market teams will continue to be small market teams, and that's why a lot of people are behind the Pittsburgh Pirates this season, because they are still a small market team and they're kind of defying the odds in some respects.
Yeah, my thought is that if the New York Yankees weren't the New York Yankees as a commercial brand, there would be a salary cap, because the Yankees have no object in the way of them of spending money. You mentioned the luxury tax there. They're trying to cut down their roster now and the wages so that they don't get hit with the 50% luxury tax next year. But they could afford it. It's not like they're doing it because they can't afford it or because it's like a really bad rule to go over the luxury tax. They're doing it because they don't want to spend their money on stuff they don't believe in. Like, there's no impediment there. If you're a Russian oligarch, I'm buying a Major League Baseball team. Because if I've got all the money in the world, I can buy the best players in the world, like British transfers, okay, not a transfer fee, but free agents. I can just sign them all, and there's no restriction, cap-wise or anything like that. I think it's bizarre in American sports that hasn't come in, and I honestly believe, I understand you got some other big market teams, my Red Sox and what have you, but the New York Yankees have become such a commercial brand. They basically eclipse all American sports in the fact that people will just wear a Yankees hat and not even know that it's a sport team. So they're so big that they make so much money that a salary cap is just redundant because Major League Baseball is so crap at marketing. We've discussed it many times. They literally pinned themselves internationally marketing-wise, is a long word, on the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, people wear Yankees hats. They just believe they're just New York caps. Well, that's exactly the reason why they wear them. No, there's very few people that even know what the New York Yankees are, even outside of the UK. But they take advantage of that particular branding, and that's absolutely fine. But I could never see a baseball salary cap.
No, I can never see it. I was just wondering. Hypothetically,
even without Yankees.
Yeah. Okay then, where are we off to next year?
So. It's been a big weekend in college football, and one of the big games over the weekend has been the Michigan Notre Dame game, and this is going to be one of the last times this game ever takes place. And this is, for me, one of the big problems in college football at the moment, is that these big-time rivalry games are no longer going to be taking place because of where teams have moved conferences, and these games are no longer going to be part of the schedule. I think they play, is it the last time they play is next season? And then...
I did think it was this year, but possibly they might play next year.
It might be next season's the last one, and then that's it. Or it might even be this season. I'm sure I've read it one place or another. It's either... I might be wrong. This is it. Yeah, the grand game will not be beyond 2014.
It's ridiculous.
It's for me it's absolutely shocking, because when I first started watching college football, this is one of the big games, and this is a rivalry game that's been around for an absolutely incredible amount of time. But again, it's not just this rivalry game that's been around that length of time is coming to town. We touched on it on a previous show about Texas A&M's game is no longer there because Texas A&M have moved to the SEC. You've also got the other one, Missouri and Kansas, that ran for a good number of years, but again that's come to an end because Missouri moved to the SEC. Pittsburgh against West Virginia, again that was come to an end because West Virginia went to the Big 12. Nebraska and Oklahoma, another storied rivalry, again come to an end because Nebraska went to the Big 10. And I think me and you have kind of touched on the fact of what we believe is, even though these teams are moving conferences, these games should still be kept as non-conference games as part of those team schedules.
Yeah, they do have a rivalry week where they play a rival, but sometimes you have more than one rival. You within the state. The one that wrangled me the most before the start of the season was the A&M Texas one. How they've ever allowed that to not be played year in, year out is baffling and beyond me. I think Baylor, Texas A&M, all these teams should have to play each other every year. If that means expanding the schedule by a game, then just expand the schedule by a game. Who's going to fight against that? Expand the schedule by a game. What really frustrates me with the Michigan Notre Dame one is that okay, it's always been an out of conference game because Notre Dame are an independent and Michigan have always been in a conference, and now Notre Dame are aligning themselves with the ACC more, so that's why they claim they've ended the rivalry, and they said it wasn't even a rivalry, which is baffling. The game's been played for over 100 years, and now it's just disappearing. It's some of the most storied moments in college football. It's one of the most recognisable moments in college football. And it's just taken away. And again, I divert to the NCAA, who are meant to keep these institutions in line and look at the best interests of the sport. In what way does this help the sport? Okay, so the conference realignments and rejigging, I've said it before, I think it's going to end now for the foreseeable future. Some of these schools are trying to get themselves into bigger conferences to get themselves more recognised so they could get into the bigger bowl games and what have you. Bigger TV audience, can recruit better athletes. Now that we have the bowl system, you can basically be in a poor conference. If you run the table, then you have a chance of getting into the bowl system, into the playoff system, and having a real go at things. It's just frustrating as a fan and someone who watches the sport week in, week out to lose the Michigan Notre Dame game, and we're using that as an example. But like you said, it's spread all across college football now, and the institution seems to have no thought for the long term of these rivalries, or for the past rivalries, or for the fans. It's just basically how much money can we make? Does moving to the Big Ten earn us more money? Yeah, it does now and in the long term. So it's just frustrating. And to not have Michigan Notre Dame play too. I mean, if anyone watched the game last night, it was a 41-30 win for Michigan, and it was a great game. It was truly a great game. The atmosphere was like nothing you ever see in college football there in Michigan. It was just incredible, and that's completely lost now. For what? Notre Dame to play? What are they playing? Another ACC opponent, another outer conference opponent against, like, I don't know, an Ohio. What fun's that going to be for anyone? Wake Forest. What fun's that going to be?
Oh, it's not, and this is it. It's a rivalry that's come to an end. So these rivalries have been going on for so long that it's, it becomes like when the schedule comes out, it becomes that game that they put their cross against on the calendar. When you're a fan, that's the game you look forward to, because that's the big rivalry game. I go to Texas now and again, and their big rivalry game is Texas Oklahoma. Can you imagine that game not being in existence? That would be ridiculous.
No, and you have lots of the rivalry games where they play each other on a neutral field. I mean, Miami, Florida sometimes play on a neutral field. You have the, Oklahoma, Texas and Oklahoma State and these guys. They play at Cowboy Stadium. You have lots of these teams that play on a neutral field because the rivalries are that big, and it's just so explosive of a scene in college football. And people kid themselves about college football sometimes. It is a multi-million-pound enterprise. There's a lot of dead games on the schedule. This weekend slate was awful for a college football fan. There was like 4 games worth watching out of the amount of FBS schools we have, because teams just roll over other teams, so they have to find a way of incorporating more meaningful games, whether that means cutting down the regular season schedule by 2 games, introducing another round into the playoffs, which is what I want to see, and then a specific rivalry game where you just have to play someone within a certain distance. You could easily implement that, whether that's an easy win for one team or not. Implement it where it's like a geographical game. You have to play a team within a certain radius, and it's obviously going to be a rivalry then.
And the thing is, me and Ollie both get asked the same question. It crops up again and again and again. Why do people come out and watch these collegiate football games? And do you know what the crowd was on Saturday night?
Was it 104?
100. It was an NCAA record. 115,109 people.
I mean, these schools are looking for money at the end of the day. So how is that not? How is there going to be 114,000 people watching Notre Dame play Wake Forest?
No.
So, is there going to be 14,000 people watching Notre Dame play Wake Forest? Possibly. I don't know. It's just ludicrous. It makes no sense. But it's basically because I subscribe to Brady Hoke's belief that the chicken. I think Notre Dame are chicken. I don't think they want to play Michigan anymore. I think that both schools, not just Notre Dame, I don't think that they want to have the chance of the loss anymore. They just want to get into the playoff system.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, this is it. They opted out. Was it the last 3-4 years or something? The contract that they had in place to play this game, and that's what happened. Where the chicken out phrase came about 3 or 4 months ago. So, yeah, there's an argument for that. I mean, this is a game that a lot of people want to see. I remember on our previous show, me and you sat there and joked about how cheap some collegiate football tickets were and how easily available they were to certain games, but Michigan versus Notre Dame, that's not an easy ticket to get.
Yeah. Good luck getting one of them. I wanted to play that game again at some point. I may do it later on the show. That was excellent. People who missed that, it was incredible. There was tickets for like Johnny Manziel's first game back. We're going for like $2 through proper ticket agencies, through StubHub. It was ridiculous. $2, crazy stuff. I don't understand how the NCAA is, what the NCAA as an institution do during the season, apart from investigating athletes for earning some cash for things they should be allowed to earn cash for. How are they not stepping in on this? And okay, you can say it's the institution's right to decide who they want to play, but is this in the best interest of both schools? I really don't think it is. I mean, I want to see this thing talked out on TV about why they're doing this. Sit everyone down. The two AD should sit down on some sort of TV show and discuss why this isn't happening anymore, because it just doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't literally make any sense from any collegiate football fan. This is a game, as I say, if you're an alumni of the school, it's a game you really look forward to. If you're a collegiate football fan, it's a game you look forward to. And as you rightly said, this was very much a dead week. I mean, you could say, well, this game was a game you wanted to watch. South Carolina against Georgia was another marquee matchup on this week. But in a lot of cases, the teams in the top 10 in collegiate football, this was a dead week. Just a games you're just not going to want to see. You might want to see, maybe what Johnny Manziel does against Sam Houston.
Oh yeah, good luck with that.
Exactly. So if you're that much of a fan of Johnny Manziel, you might want to tune into something like that. But in general, these are just all cakewalks for most of the teams inside the top 10, and it's just not even worth watching. They're not fun games to see. So this was a game that the whole nation tuned in to watch.
Yeah, the whole world of collegiate football fans. This was the game this week, and I love the Devin Gardner wearing the 98 jersey and all that stuff. All the tradition that goes with college football was brought to the fore in this one game that spanned back from the 1800s. It was just incredible. It's just gone. It just doesn't seem to make any sense. I mean, I'm very grateful, Stephen, that you did not bring up the fact that my Florida Gators lost this weekend. So thank you very much for that.
I did almost tweet you because I did see you was online, and I did have a few moments when I just tuned in to see how the collegiate football scores were going. And it was round about as Florida were about to lose. You was within a touchdown, weren't you?
We were.
Yeah, I did see that's when I was. I tuned it in to watch it, and I thought, do I send him a message or do I not send him a message? I'm like, no.
Would not have been smart of you to have sent a message on that day. You would have been axed on the spot. I was very, very livid. He
was suffering enough, and leader. As we move away from college football, we touch on our final subject of tonight. I mean, my actual most of my thoughts, yes, from a sporting point of view, actually wasn't on college football. I was very much engrossed in which city was going to have the 2020 Olympic Games. So for anyone who wasn't even watching that last night,
I literally had no idea that was even upon us. How bad's that? Talk about an Olympic legacy. I had absolutely no idea this vote was upon us. And then Tokyo won it, and I was like, what do you mean Tokyo 2020? I had no idea what was going on. And I think I speak for most fans and most people in that respect.
Okay, so for anyone like myself who is an Olympic fan, the cities are decided 7 years prior to the actual event taking place, because that's how long it takes you.
What's funny, I'm sorry to put it against Stephen, but they gave it to Tokyo. Tokyo could whip something up in a month. If you gave those people a month, the same thing with Beijing. The pair of them, they only need a month's notice, and they would have it sorted. Britain needed a good, I'd say, 10 to 15 years to get it to the standard of those boys could do in a month.
But we put on a wonderful Olympic
Oh, we
Games.
did. Don't get me wrong.
Joking aside, so say that's where my thoughts were last night, and leading on from that, there was a chance for either a sport to be voted back in as a participation sport in wrestling, or there was one of two sports that could be put into the Olympic Games that hadn't been in the London 2012 Olympics and wouldn't be at Rio. And one of them was squash, and the other one was baseball for men and softball for women. Now, I've had various discussions, for want of a better word today, about the merits of whether baseball and softball should be in the Olympic Games, and the argument that was thrown at me was, well, it's not the pinnacle of that particular sport by winning an Olympic gold medal. No, and it's not. But then you could hold that against a fair number of sports within the Olympics, and it's not the pinnacle of that particular sport by winning an Olympic gold medal. But for me, I was very disappointed that baseball and softball didn't go back in, because baseball already had a ready-made baseball stadium that could be used. So it was all part of something they didn't have to worry about. The Tokyo Dome, which I believe holds about 50,000 people, and the Japanese are baseball mad. You've got the Japanese players in the major leagues already. So I thought baseball and softball was going to be stand a very good chance, and it would be interesting to see whether or not you've had professional players playing in the Olympic Games. There's a slight problem, of course, with the fact that it's within season. So again, that poses its own problem, much like hockey does in the Winter Olympics. But maybe if you scrapped the All-Star game for that year, and maybe then had a 2-week break instead for baseball players to go after the Olympics, it could be quite good fun, and get rid of that ridiculous World Baseball Classic that takes place out of season and nobody actually wants to actually play in the thing. But unfortunately, baseball and softball didn't make it. But I was quite shocked, because I thought there would have been another way as well. We talk about the way that baseball is marketed from a worldwide point of view. It would have been a great opportunity to get baseball out there to the worldwide masses and try and grow that game from a worldwide point of view.
Yeah, you make lots of great points there. The first thing I want to jump on is the people saying it wouldn't be the pinnacle of the sport. Now, obviously, winning the World Series would be the pinnacle of the sport. For players playing in America and in the big leagues, what about every other nation on the planet, especially in Japan, where they still have some seriously good ball players over there who maybe haven't made it to the big leagues yet? Maybe like the Dominican Republic, where they haven't made it to the big leagues yet. That would be huge for them if they could knock off on America, or like you could knock off a Japan, who regularly win that ridiculous World Baseball Classic. That'd be huge for every other nation, I think, outside of America and Japan, the Olympic Games. And from a marketing standpoint, it would have been an incredible opportunity, because, you know, basketball has expanded itself massively through the Olympics. They rock up with boys like LeBron James to the Olympic Games, just dropping crazy dunks and crazy everything that's good about the game from a marketing standpoint on these guys from Nigeria and what have you. You know, it's just they're epic events. Stephen, I speak for you in this, that I thought it was epic, the basketball in the Olympics here in London. I thought it was phenomenal just to see some of the athletes there. It's incredible for the sport. I feel bad for baseball that it didn't get in, because it's particularly in Japan, where it's such a national sport. It would have been great for them. What I think lets it down massively is the length of the game. They would have had to figure out a way to have a completely different format for the Olympics. I'm convinced of it. You could not have had novice fans, whether it's in Japan or not, people tuning into the Olympics around the world, people who aren't big fans of the sport, and there's lots of sports you're not a big fan of but you might tune into because it's on the Olympic program or what have you. Something like fencing, for example. Maybe you don't watch all the swimming galas, but you like watching it at the Olympics. Something like that with baseball. I don't think it would work with a 9-inning game and with the amount of time that it takes at the moment to go through a ball game. It would have to be some sort of like hit and run 5-inning affair, 4-inning affair. You know, I don't think you could have had a normal baseball game for the Olympics.
No, I think there would have to be some sort of format point. And it's perfectly true what you say, is that, you know, a lot of people do tune into things they wouldn't normally watch any other time of year. I mean, for me, it was like the handball was a very good one.
Horse riding, I always get incredibly involved in the dressage. That isn't even a joke, especially when Britain, because I know they're good at it, because I assume that we're going to be good at something that involves horse riding, because we have a lot of rich people who can get involved at that young age. I always get incredibly involved with the horse riding.
No, so there you go. There's a couple of sports right there. And going back to what you said about the basketball, and I was fortunate enough to see the USA play on many different times at the Olympic Games, and you know that was the hottest ticket. And that's what I try to say to people. You know, that the Olympic gold medal in basketball is not necessarily the pinnacle, because obviously the NBA finals, but the Olympic basketball is one of the hottest tickets to get when you try and go to Olympic Games. It's a hard one. It is incredibly hard. And the same way, you know, ice hockey again in the Winter Olympics is not the pinnacle of that sport, but you try and get a ticket for the ice hockey gold medal game. That's a tough ticket. I'm not saying it's impossible to get, because no ticket is impossible, but it is a hard ticket to get, and that shows you how popular that is. Now, baseball could have used the Olympic Games to grow from a worldwide point of view, but I definitely agree that you've had to slow it down, because not say that fast out.
Oh, please don't slow down. Good Lord.
Putting some rule modifications for that particular tournament. I would have more gone along the lines of 7 innings, and talked about some of the things we talked about before, where you can't have, you know, maybe no throws to first base.
double runs for home runs.
Things.
You have to have the double runs for home runs. If that was introduced to baseball tomorrow, I reckon viewing of the sport would almost double. I swear to God, if you brought in double runs for home runs, the amount of fat players who could just strike a ball 1 in a million that ball clubs would sign on the off chance that he creams one out when everyone's on base and adds 8 runs to the lineup, it'd be incredible. Imagine.
Go on.
Minus a run for hitting the batter as well. That'd be a great one. Or maybe even extra runs for hitting the batter. Well, that wouldn't work.
I've got a great Olympic sport for you, and if you've ever seen the film, you'll realise just how great this is. Basketball for the Olympics.
Now, I've seen the film on Netflix, but I haven't watched it because it had awful reviews. It looks like something I wouldn't enjoy.
It's not. No, it's incredibly good fun. It's Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and they decide that whilst they can shoot basketball, they can't run or do anything else like that. So what they decide is they invent this game where you play basketball but with baseball rules. And that's all I'll say. But it's really funny, and there are some really fun things in that movie. And you've got Jenny McCarthy's in it as somebody that's just completely thick, really plays up to the blonde bimbo in the movie, but just does it in a really humorous way. You know what you're going to get with Trey Parker and Matt Stone. It's going to be South Park humour, but to see some of the stuff they pull off is really good fun. Again, recommendation for you. You enjoyed Mr. 3000. Go and actually watch basketball because it's a really good fun movie.
Well, there's some on the slate viewing for me tomorrow after I've watched every college football game and every NFL game that I have to dig through tomorrow. Basketball could be a nice little break either midway through the day or at the end of the day. I like that. I mean, touching on baseball again in terms of the Olympic Games, genuinely, we've discussed it so many times. What can baseball do? I think for the Olympics, I'd just throw out the rule book of baseball. Genuinely, I just go with something completely different in the hopes of attracting a new audience.
I mean, the home run
almost like 2020 cricket. Just completely chuck out the rules. Let's go with completely new things. We have the free hit and all that in 2020 cricket. The pinnacle of the sport is Test match cricket. Well, whether people argue that or not, it is to cricket fans, to cricket purists. It is the Ashes for English and cricket and Australian fans. It's the Ashes. Everyone else has their own major Test series. India versus Pakistan. But 2020 cricket is a massive commodity in itself. Baseball could have gone down that road and sold that to the Olympic Committee. We're going 5 innings. We're going double runs for home runs, stuff like that. That would have been awesome.
No, just anything. They could have got it in there and get a new audience in to watch it, and I think they could have made some modifications that would have helped that. The home run derby would have lent itself to an Olympic sport, or even have a bit more fun with it and actually have targets.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of that. I think I think the hardest thing to do in the world is hit a baseball. Obviously, when it's just tossed out there for batting practice, like the home run derby, it's easier. But to aim a baseball is just another level. That would have been epic. I would have loved that. All sorts of different targets. You have baskets. If you get it in the basket, you get more points. That would have been awesome. That would have been immense.
So maybe I should be part of the Olympic Committee and put forward these wonderful ideas.
Yeah, I'd be involved in that as well. I'd be one of the corrupt guys who just takes all the cash and chills in a Tokyo hotel with all my spare tickets for the events.
Various events. So if anyone fancies helping us get to Tokyo, then we'll be more than happy to go. But that's it for tonight. This is our show. It's it's our first take show that we've done in a fair length of time. I do want to draw everyone to some things that we have got coming up. As I say, I briefly mentioned before, we have got the NHL previews coming up. So if you did enjoy our NFL previews, our NHL previews won't be as long, but we're going to try and get people involved in that haven't watched the game before, and even people that are die-hard hockey fans. Yes, we're going to get you involved, Holly. But even people that are die-hard hockey fans about what they can expect to see from this upcoming season, because we are going to be talking about hockey at least once a week. And next Sunday, Ollie and I are on location.
We are. I forgot about this. We are.
we are on location. Ollie, would you like to share with everyone where the two of us are going to be next Sunday?
Well, you've talked about it enough that people should know by now. We'll be at Hoopsade. It is an immense, awesome, whatever verb, adjective, whatever it is you want to use. It's a charity event for just incredible causes. Stephen, you have more information. It's going to be a team of current BBL players, ex-BBL players, celebrities.
Yeah,
everyone's rocking down there for a charity basketball tournament.
Yeah, it's Marcus Camby's coming over from the US. Various other different people are going to be taking a part in celebrating this day of sport, and for so many great causes. I mean, Lance Haggith is the guy that's behind it. We'll see if we can try and grab some words with Lance when we're down the next Sunday. But myself and Ollie will be on location. We will be trying to do some interviews and anything else that we can do whilst we're down there next Sunday. And if you see either of us about and you recognise us from our Twitter pages or anything else like that, then by all means pop over and say hello. Ollie, by the way, is the guy that's got the head on top of the Tim Tebow body. I'm the one that's actually got an actual real photo.
Hey, that's a wonderful image. What did you make of that new logo for the UK Enzo football program? I thought it was wonderful.
I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I didn't know which one I preferred more, whether it was either yourself.
It has to be me. I'm
Tebow.
absolutely tanked. I'm absolutely ripped on that picture. I love it. I've come out of it fantastic. It actually looks like my head is on that body, which is impressive. Tom's looks a little bit peeish and very pale, and he's wearing glasses, which is quite funny. He's superimposed on Aaron Rodgers' body. I'm superimposed on my man Tim Tebow's body, and I look absolutely tanked. So I really love it. That was Lee Wood who did that graphic work. If you want to see that, just go on @UKEndzone on Twitter, and it's all over that page. Background, don't know what you call it, cover image, all over there. Stephen, I'm excited for Hoopsade. A follower shout out that we always do. I'm going to rob the one this week, Stephen, because Ellis Haggith, from the son of the man you mentioned, the aforementioned man who set this event up, who actually is running the event for Ellis, he followed us on Twitter. So,
which is great.
That's fantastic stuff, and we wish him all the best. Hopefully we brought you some semblance of enjoyment if you're listening to this one. Ellis, and you are the Twitter follower shout out of the week.
No, for anyone who doesn't know, Ellis has been battling with leukemia, and all of us here at First Take wish him all the very best, and we certainly hope to see him at the event next Sunday.
All right, let's wrap this up then. One final point from me, that I'm going to be changing my Twitter profile picture to Stephen Edwards. Do not come up and speak to me. Do not annoy me. I have a day off. I'll be drinking some Kool-Aid and getting some interviews. Do not disturb me at Hoopsade. So disturb Stephen Edwards to your heart's content. This has been a long show. At Bill's Ghost, we're sorry. Apologies for that. This has been longer than we anticipated. We'll, again, if you want the shows to be at the 2 hour mark, 1.5 hour to 2 hour mark, 5 shows a week, then let us know. If you want it less, just an hour a week, an hour per show, let us know. Even less than that, let us know. But we won't comply to that one. And also let us know if you're a spud. Are you a fan of Stephen Edwards? If you are a fan of Stephen Edwards on this show, you are part of the spud group. And let him know on Twitter, let us know on Twitter by simply declaring, I am a spud. Easily done. Okay, Stephen Edwards, let's wrap this up. From @UK First Take, I've been @Ollie UKEZ. He's been @DRose UK 36. Good night, Stephen Edwards.
And it's good night for me, and he is a spud.